Hey guys, this is Michael with the Jungle Gym Reviews. Today I'm going to take you inside what I think is the most capable, compact 3x3 power rack that you can build at home. This is a narrow profile power rack that is the centerpiece of my gym that has the ability to simulate all different kinds of machines, especially with these lever arms, things like dual Bulletproof VTS for other machines and or a Smith trolley system, dual Voltras for cables that I can mount absolutely anywhere, plate storage, bar storage, all sorts of attachments, accessories, handles, spotter arms, you name it. I'm going to walk you through exactly what constitutes this rack and hopefully give you some ideas on how you can build something similar at your home. So let's check it out. So at the heart of every gym is a power rack. You've seen previous videos. I had a home gym tour that I think came out last week. This is not just one power rack. It's actually a series of interconnected power racks, but this here is the main one. This is the rack I work on all the time. Yes, it's all part of the rack room for different reviews and attachments and such, but I like to keep the majority of those on here and try to use them in tandem because this is what I figure a lot of people are actually working with in real life, which is a narrow profile front to back and potentially even limited width. This rack in itself is 100-inch uprights. These are Titan Fitness Titan Series. You can buy them a la carte. I used to have a 6-post power rack. If you've seen the video from last year, I'll link that in the description below. It previously was a 6-post, but I wanted to make it even narrower, but still see if I could retain all, if not most of, and add to the functionality. And I think I have succeeded. Now, before I get into the video, if you could quickly hit that subscribe button below, if you haven't already, it's going to continue to help us grow the channel as we post 2 reviews a week throughout the rest of 2025 and all next year. 100 reviews over the next year. So if you're interested in checking out those or any of these products after the video, please check out that link in the description below. So besides the 100-inch Titan Series uprights, the other sort of cross members, building parts, pieces here are going to be, it's a 16-inch depth, 16-inch Rep Fitness cross members. So both the lower cross members and the upper cross members, front to back cross members that is, are 16 inches from Rep. I like those because those are some of the most narrow metric 3x3 that you can find. The Titan Fitness Titan Series uprights do have the interior keyhole, which allows both for 1-inch and 5/8-inch attachments. I've only really found maybe 1 or 2 attachments that are 5/8 that I like to use on here, but in theory, more is better, or the ability to let me do more, use more attachments in case I had any old ones that I want to use on here. So that's always nice. The width side to side is 42 inches. You'll see the T. This is, again, Titan Fitness. I went with 42-inch because I've had rep racks in the past that are 41 inches. My elbows tend to hit those, especially when benching, but I don't really want to go quite as wide as like Rogue or something that's 43 or Bells of Steel. Titan seems to be perfect for my needs, and then I can kind of bridge the gap, finding little spacers or washers and making the 42 a 43, or perhaps trying to get away with using some 41-inch width attachments. 42 seems to be the best for that. On the front feet here, I have Rep Fitness mini front feet extensions. Now, since I have this whole room connected in the interconnected rig, I probably don't need these, but this, especially with this narrow profile front to back to avoid the rack potentially tipping over. Once you do, though, have something like the weight plate storage sitting in the back and all the weight sitting down in there, the risk of that happening is relatively low, but better be safe than sorry, and it really doesn't get in the way. If anything, it adds a little extra when it comes to the cable system, which you'll kind of see here in a second. Obviously, this is a power rack. I can do my barbell lifts on here, despite what it looks like. So everything on this rack can be moved out of the way. The lever arms here can be moved down to allow full upright use. So if you want to use it for squatting, you can put the J-cups here. If you want to use it for benching, you can put them down lower. So the front is still definitely usable as a normal power rack, but majority of the time I'm using this for the machine/cable aspect of that. The machines come from these, which you may have also seen in a recent video. These are a set of build your own, what I call lever arms. And these are Vendetta strength and athletic brackets, which have a multi-point locking system on the front, in addition to these UHMW rollers on the back that are fixed to the rack. So this allows the whole trolley system to slide up and down the rack without you having to take it off, put it on like a pair of traditional lever arms. And this multi-point locking system allows you both to store it out of the way, but also stop and start movements at different angles, whether it's a bench press and you want to start somewhere around, let's say 90 degrees perpendicular to the floor. This in and of itself for lever arm or simulating machine type movements is actually absolutely fantastic. I think lever arms get a bad rap because they're hard to load and they can be expensive when you do fully build it out in this configuration. But if you want to buy something fully loaded, let's say like a PRX version we recently seen on the channel, same thing, $1,500, $1,600. So you really have to like know how to use lever arms and really have a use in mind when you want to go that route. But if you do, and you are creative and you have different ways to load them or ways that you'd like to use them, they can be a super, super effective tool that you cannot get with just a rack alone or dumbbells alone or barbells alone as far as simulating machines, because there's a fixed path, fixed range of motion, fixed resistance curve for the most part. Another good way, and another thing this rack features, is the Bulletproof VTS system. The VTS is basically a big bracket with a ton of different rollers inside, made to roll up and down the rack. You will have a full review coming for this VTS system, the dual VTS system. I have one on each side. Sometime in the next 2 months or so, you can attach different handles to it. These are their standard handles. You can attach a bar to connect both rollers, trolleys together. It essentially simulates a Smith machine fixed on your rack. So once you lift it up and lock it, you can slide it up and down your rack absolutely anywhere to do things like bent over rows, inclined bench press, to do things like military press. Whatever you traditionally use a Smith machine for, just a fixed up and down that kind of takes some of the balance out of the movement. This is another good way to isolate, to mimic machines in a small profile. So now I have lever arms, which can kind of simulate a bunch of different machines, and the VTS, which is a Smith system, so another additional accessory, a lot of different machines, a lot of different variation, and this is where it's value added in this tight, compact space. And when you have a 100-inch rack like this, and you're done using it, you can put it up in the top out of the way. Now, squatting, everything I can do underneath here. I'm not gonna hit my head at all, even at 6'2", so that's absolutely fantastic. The next thing, and probably one of my favorite things, is going to be this. This is the Beyond Power Voltra. You'll notice not only one on this side, but on the other side is a second. On this side, I made basically a 3x3 little extender out of some old 3x3 tube that I had. So you'll see it's maybe about 20 inches or so. And this basically allows me to mount this Voltra kind of like you would a cable stack, but up out of the way. So that's better for things like lat pull downs. And then when I go to connect them to things like lever arms or like the VTS, they start from a much better position rather than kind of shoved up somewhere in the center of the rack. The cool thing about the Voltras is with something like this Darker Lifting Quick Mount, you can move the location of these to anywhere you want. And now you have a cable system, a cable stack starting from there. Again, I have 2 of them, so that allows me to have a dual-sided functional trainer, just like a normal functional trainer system. However, this is somewhere around twice the price. Now, at twice the price, it does come with what I consider twice or potentially way more amount of possibilities. I move it to the center sometimes to do things like lat pull downs on their standard rack mounted adapter. I also put these on the back of the rack, back here, vertically, one on each side, to be able to do things like seated rows. Or I can use these and attach these directly to my lever arms to power things like pressing from the bottom of the movement. I've created this whole back cross-member section essentially for this, Voltras plus storage. And if I want to move them a little bit higher, let's say for like a mid-row or something like that, yes, it does take a second because you have to flip the orientation, grab the mounts sideways, put these back on. But now I have a low position in the back of my rack for pulleys and a mid position in the back of my rack for pulleys. And you add on more goodies like this Prime Fitness Stability attachment, which you'll either see the review last week or I think it'll be coming out the week after this video. This is another really cool thing that can go in a rack that just kind of changes the game as far as low profile but super functional rack attachments. How I have it oriented right now, I could use it as a somewhat really high back support. This is more of like a storage solution for me as a chest support, and pretty much any type of support you want for both cable and dumbbell movements. So I've actually, again, created this lateral cross member to be able to do things like chest supported rows. And if I want to change the height of it, that's why I also installed these lower cross members to basically just have a middle height and a lower height for these Voltras, which then just gives me a lot of opportunities for this back of the rack cable system. And then of course, front of the rack, very normal, however you want to do it. Throw it on one of the front feet up here, do things like bicep curls. You can do that, shoulder flies, whatever to your heart content. You have a movable cable system. Yes, it takes longer to adjust than a normal pin style weight stack cable system and just sliding it up and down the rack. The benefit is then you just have so many more options where you can put those. This is where this type of rack then just becomes exponentially more functional in theory. Now that's the overall functionality of the rack. Then as far as storage and what else can go on here, because yeah, you can do a lot of things, but you also need things like bars, like plates, probably like handles, grips, stuff like that. That's where also this back of the rack, even though it is low profile, I've left it kind of clean and utilitarian enough to make a lot of sense. I have Titan Fitness barbell holders to where I have 2 bars stored vertically on the back. I have band pegs tucked behind here that you can see, again, because this lower and middle cross member are both 3x3, you can put absolutely whatever you want on there. I typically will store some extra sets of handles, depending on which ones I have. Handles for lever arms, handles for attachments, knurled nuts I'll throw on this back thing. I mean, literally, it's a rack, and that's what's great about 3x3 in general, is you can put anything you want pretty much anywhere. So I have the Darko barbell anchors, which are a little bit hard to see, but from the side you'll be able to see it's a 2-bar horizontal storage. So I have the vertical Titan storage, and now I can throw another barbell on there horizontally as well. Again, to be quite honest, I don't have that many bars because I typically only use like a power bar and then really some sort of multi-grip and or specialty bar like this from time to time. Over on the side, although it's technically not part of this rack, you'll see another safety squat bar, a curl bar stored in the back, and a bunch of different attachments. Again, not on my rack, but stored on the back side of the rack with things like these little Amazon attachment metal posts. Great for additional cable attachments and stuff when you want to store it on your rack. I could very easily put on just a ton of these onto the inside of this rack and store all my cable attachments here. Some of the other things on here, obviously plate storage. I like the Rep Fitness narrow plate horns. It allows me with these rubber grip Olympic plates to get 2 of every kind on there. So 45, 35, 25, 10, 5, 2.5. And same thing on both sides. That serves 2 purposes, obviously to store my plates, and I can still get them in and out easily for people wondering. 45, want to put it on the lever arm here, want to put it on a barbell here. I purposely left exactly enough room, did all the measurements and everything. Should be no surprise to anyone. So again, still functional as a normal power rack, normal plate storage, barbell movements, etc. Some of the other things on here are the Rogue leg rollers, which I've had for a long time. These are great for things like center mounted lat pull downs. Any way you basically want to support yourself with a leg roller, these work great for those Voltra pull downs. You can use any of the cross members vertically for any additional storage. One of the cool new things, recent attachments, is something like these GetRx center posts that you can put on the outside of the rack and then technically put on some of their things like a lat pull down seat. I'll show their leg rollers, leg holder brace, which is also a dual foot brace slash bracket for low rows. So I found ways to use those both in the center of the rack and actually just to give me a further range of motion on the sides of the rack. So in today's day and age, we just have so many cool attachments and so many things that can take, again, these racks, the compactness, the functionality, just to the next level. So that's really, really, really cool. All the handles, storage, you name it. We are truly living in the golden age of equipment, and you can build a rack like this. You can make it bigger, you can make it wider, you can just do absolutely anything you want. So guys, that's it for today's overview, review, / walkthrough of my ultimate compact 3x3 power rack. As always, if you have any questions or comments, please leave them down below. I'll be happy to answer or at least try. Thanks for tuning in to Jungle Gym Reviews. We'll see you next time. Take it easy. Peace.